Ladies and gentlemen, I will try to make things not too long. I understand we're a little bit back on time. Just a small background. I'm from an old Bavarian family. Our family was running the country as kings and dukes for 738 years, which is record of ruling in Europe. And I think this is a pretty good example on sustainability. We managed to keep running a country, and we had kings in about 5 other countries, in Sweden, Greece, in Denmark, also in Hungary, and in Bohemia, which is now Czech Republic. So we've been all over Europe, but basically in Bavaria we stayed for a long time. We were able to pass on from generation to generation. I also would like to say that if you travel ever to Munich, you might be surprised if you see a beautiful country, beautiful farmland, with trees and with green fields which have been farmed for 2,000 years and which are still in good shape. So sustainability, even in farming, is doable if people have responsibility for the next generation. And this is something which is very strongly the case in our country. Most of the farms were passed on from one generation to the next, and the other in the family were given education. So the farms stay together, but the education given to the rest of the families was helping to build up crafts. And if you look at Bavaria today as one of the leading industrial countries in the world, we have companies like BMW, like Audi, like many others. But this is because we have a very, very high level of well-trained craftsmen who have started, and we heard Prada is going the same route now. And in Germany, if you don't want to go to university, you go as an apprentice. You learn a craft precisely for 3 years as an apprentice. Then you work for another 2 or 3 years as a worker in that specialist worker, and then you become a master of profession without university education, but you're equally respected. Therefore, we have people who don't need ISO norms to be taught what they have to do. They know what they're doing, and therefore they do excellent and precise work. I think this is one of the most important things Germany can give to the rest of the world, an educational system which is not necessarily a university, but which is hands-on training for people who may be much more skilled hands-on than maybe in a training which is only on universities and leads up to jobless PhDs. At the end of the day, industry only works if you have people who have work, who can start a small business, and that's much easier if you're hands-on a craftsman than if you're a university-driven scientist who doesn't know how to drill a hole through a wall by hand. So I think this is something which is important. I'm in the brewing industry. I run a couple of breweries in Bavaria, and we have a franchise we are currently producing in 13 other countries, mainly in Eastern Europe, and also in quite a lot of Asian countries. And basically what we do is we export brewmasters, teach our partners how to make beer, and we help them in marketing, and we do that in quite unusual places. Now I've started that, and I had the 3rd German-Hungarian joint venture in 1983, which was quite early, and so I followed the changes in Europe very closely. I've been traveling a lot to Eastern Europe, and I saw what was happening. Now, why do those crazy things happen in the world? I came from, as I say, brewer, and mainly also in marketing. Besides that, I also do porcelain. I bought a company which was just at the point of being, well, disappearing, Nymphenburg Porzellan, which currently does the finest porcelain in the world, but it's a hands-on craft company with 70 employees, all craftsmen, everything done by hand, no machine press, no pre-printing, free painting on porcelain, and we have some professions which are the last in the world. We have the last porcelain mill master, probably UNESCO heritage in the future, so also in crafts. So, I was interested, how does humans operate? We're biological creatures, and are we humans all the same? Are we different? Why do we fight? How do we get the buy button if someone wants to purchase something? So there's a couple of things. If you look at humans, I had a very good friend, and that was interesting to me, who studied humans over the last 45 years all over the world to find out what is cultural and what is biological inheritance. And what you can find is that the humanity worldwide actually is one unit. We're not separate. We're completely operating with the same genetic base behavior. We have a lot of cultural differences, but we are driven by basics who will make us understand each other very easily if we try to. But at the same time, we have some dangerous dispositions because we haven't changed too much since Stone Age, and therefore some of the behaviors we have are basically suitable some 200,000 years ago, but not necessarily today. And part of that is that we used to live in small groups of about 150 for most of our existence, and partly because we tend to live in the now and not into long term. If you think of it very simply, if you have the last piece of bread to eat, you'll survive, and if you don't eat it, you don't. Therefore, we tend to overexploit nature, because overexploiting nature is helping us to feel well. If we are successful in sport, if we are successful in business, if we are successful in politics, if we are the strongest, we get reward from our brain with some dopamine, and we overexploit. So we eat more than we need, we buy more than we need, and we destroy the world more than we need. So what we need to do is take our brain in our hands, think about it, and work with cultural work against it to make us realize what we are doing wrong, because we are sufficiently intelligent to realize what we are doing. And if we know what we are doing, we can work against it. We can work against our disposition. That works quite well. Very much the same as if you have confrontations. Humans in general are friendly creatures. We are looking at the family. We defend our families, but in general we feel pain for other people, we feel sorry for other people, and we want to be friendly. But at the same time, we are always a little bit suspicious. We are afraid of other people when we first meet them, and therefore it's quite easy to encourage aggression. So aggression is, and that's something most of the dictators in this world have learned, that manipulating people, brainwashing people is something works very easy. It has been adopted by many of religious extremists. It has been worked on by most of the dictators, and they're normally appealing to a situation where we are the humans and the other not, because they look different, because they have a different religion, because they are living in a different valley. Very simple. So if you can make people afraid of others for whatever reason, you can get them to be aggressive. And that can be on command. So you would not kill someone if you see him, if you realize he's a human. So formerly it was more difficult because you had to do it by knife or by something near. Today, if you just press a button, very easy. You don't see the other ones to surrender. So fighting is much more easy, much more dangerous. And you will feel that for dictators, if they can get people to say, well, kill this one, it's a command, they might stop thinking and do it. If they speak to the person, they will probably not do it. This was a big problem in World War I, when the Germans and the French were living opposite for something like 3 years in the ditches, shooting each other. But if they ever started talking, that was the end of war. So one of the biggest problems of the armies was to keep the people apart, that they wouldn't what they call fraternize, speak together as brothers, because that stopped wars. And that's a very strange situation. Now what we had in Eastern Germany and in Eastern Europe after the World War II, we had a dictatorship in Germany, which was very unfortunate before, but then in East Germany, the flags changed from brown to red. System state. It was suppression. there was no basic difference. I never really understood why you call things left or right. I think you have anarchy on one side and you have dictatorship on the other. But there's not a line of left and right. Dictatorship, whether it's left or right, is the same. So what they had is the same thing. They changed. They even had the same guards taking care on the prisoner camps, and very easy, because if they did something wrong before, they were much easier to keep under control. They were afraid of going in the camp themselves. So the system stayed the same. And what was really one of the biggest, I would say, cultural events of this century, of the last century, was definitely the fall of the wall, where without fighting, just by saying we are the people, by going on the road, the system was changed. But there was something which was remarkable about it. The remarkable thing was that because it was such a big movement, and it was something where information went around everywhere, nobody was aggressive, all the people who were in control, in police, in military, felt part of it, part of the movement. So the government had no more chance to work on suppression, because it just didn't work anymore. The police wouldn't react. And this was an interesting thing, and I think with information today, this could go much further in the future. It will be much more easy to make a peaceful changeover, because information is the key to it. Information basically of understanding each other by trying to understand each other and to know other cultures, to understand other cultures. With this, you can, I'm interested in that for marketing. If I have to sell beer in China or in, I don't know, in Russia, you're speaking to different cultures, but to the same people. And so I was interested, how do things work? But having looked into that, it's actually very much the same if you look into why does aggressions happen, why does crazy systems survive. And well, here it didn't survive. We're very happy for that, and we must be extremely grateful to the rest of the world that they were having enough confidence in Germany not to fall back in its past, and that they had enough confidence in letting us go. And you still see sometimes some reactions which are rather interesting, like when the famous wars were on in the Balkan, where suddenly people were referring to World War II and said, well, if as an example, the war with Croatia is won by Croatia, then Germany wins World War II, statement from a foreign minister of a very known European country. And it makes you think. But I think we need to tear down those ideas and just try to see that people are like us. We're all the same in a way. On the other side, we should be proud for our culture, and we should stay curious for other cultures. If we can stay proud of what we are and be curious to others and understand others as a diversity which we urgently need in order to survive the future, because we need different ideas, different cultures. This is what is driving us ahead. No innovation without try and error. Therefore, we need many, many other other cultures who do try and error on ways how to make things better in the world. And that's one side. We don't want a uniform world. We need to be proud, but we need to stay curious, and then we don't have any more confrontation. I think that's all I wanted to get over. Thank you very much, and I think I may have caught up a bit of time. Thank you.